Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. This is Stacy and today I'm going to be showing you how to weld a couple words together to make your own sentiments that you can then cut out on your ScanNCut. And I will insert a picture of what I'm referring to here so that you can see what I'm talking about. So my screen might look like a little bit of a hot mess right now, but we will go through, there's all kinds of things going on here, and I will explain every one of them. The one thing I do want to say is that this video is going to be a little bit more than just your basic Brother Canvas Workspace video. There's going to be a few more advanced techniques that I'm going to be covering, so be sure to have a pen and paper or get your Word document open and start typing some notes, because that is what I did. There's a lot of things that happen that could go wrong, that just don't go the way that you want them to, and so there's a lot of undoing and redoing, and it's just kind of just learn as you go, and it's never, I'll tell you, it's never the same. Depending on the font you pick, it could go perfectly smooth, and or it could just be absolutely a font that you cannot use just because it just doesn't work out at all, and it's just not worth my time. And then there's so many other fonts out there that you can just go pick something else. So let's get started. Let me show you a couple of things that I have on my screen. So we do have, I'm working with Happy Birthday, obviously. And so some of these examples, we have the happy up here and birthday. And the reason why I have them separate words is because you need them to be separate and you need to format them as such, and then you will weld them together at the very end. So this one right here is still all one piece, and you can see that the font over here, it's a little bit hard to read, but it's AR Bonnie, B-O-N-N-I-E. And what I've done with this one is I've created an offset for two different versions. When you do an offset, let me go to the edit screen, scroll down to offset. When you do an offset, you have two options. You can do a round edge or you can do a beveled edge, which is basically just a sharper cornered edges. And so I've done it both ways just to see what it looks like. So this is the beveled edge and this is the rounded edge. This is a different font entirely, but this is the, like I said, the bevel, so the sharp corners, and this is the, let me move the shadow layer out of the way, and this is the rounded corners. And let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see. So this is the original font, and then this is the bevel edge. And I see I have an extra little thing there. I will show you that later, why that was there. And then this is the rounded edge. And they both look different, and I like them both. So I like to do this with the fonts that have like a sharper edge, you know, change it up a little bit and make it a little bit different. So those, and I'll go into the details of how I made these fonts, how I made, you know, these over here. But I wanted to just give you kind of like an overview of that part, that you can do two different offsets, so keep that in mind. And then let's scroll down here. So this one is another font. So this one's already been divided, as I call it. Well, not I call it, it's actually right here, divide. It's under the process overlap in the edit menu. So, and I'll explain to you why you would need to do that. But this one is the same thing, so it's a nice sharp edge, and so I've done two different ways. I've done one way right here, which is going to be the rounded edge, and then this is the beveled edge. And I will show you how this turned into this, because this one is kind of halfway in the process, so we can play with that one. This one is just a simple font, and I'm not 100% sure. Let me see what the font is. Okay, so this is Belinda Outline, it's called. I believe it's Belinda. It's Belinda, that's right. Belinda Outline. And this is the font just as I typed it. I selected the font and I typed it. And then what I did was I increased the character spacing to 3 let me back it down to 0 so you can see. So they're all pretty close together. And what I wanted to do was just ensure that I can move the letters where I want them to. And so you want to then use the divide under Edit menu. There's the divide function. So it's going to then break up every single one of these letters into its own item, its own object. And so in order to do that though, you need to separate these out because, let me zoom in. You see how there's overlap between these letters here and here and here? So when you hit divide, let me just go ahead and do it. It's going to create a little separate object for those that have overlapped. And we don't want that. That's not what we want at all. So hit undo. And so then what you do is you can go back into your font, to your properties, increase the character spacing so they're not touching, and make sure this one, see the T is a little bit close, so let's make sure we get that part separated out. Perfect. And then you will go back into your edit menu and go to divide, and now every single letter is its own object, and that's exactly what we want. Now, the one thing that you want to do is, before you do this piece, you want to make a note of what your font was, because now if you go into here and you go to properties, it's no longer seeing it as a font. It now sees it as an object or a shape, and so you need to make a note somewhere on what font you used if you want to do that, use that font again. What I've created is actually have a Word document. And so this is my welding 2 words. It's kind of my notes on how to do it because it can get a little weird and wonky sometimes, and I forget how I fixed it or got to where I was. So if you come in here though and you select, type the font name, and then you come into right mouse click, and then you can come in here and you can type the font name and make it the font name so that you can see what the actual font is. So these are all the fonts. So there's the AR Bonnie that I was using. Bigger Lemons is, I'll show you which one that one is. That one was the one at the top. So this is Bigger Lemons right here. Let me zoom out a little bit. So this is Bigger Lemons. And then this is the AR Bonnie, which is this one here and rounded. This one is the Belinda Outline, so that's right here. And then this one is, I believe this one is the Hey Gotcha. That's what that one is. So another thing I want to show you is how you can figure out what fonts are going to look good for your sentiments and what might work well. And it's not a surefire thing, but it's basically the way that I go through and look at all my fonts, because doing it in Brother Canvas Workspace is a pain, because if you go in and you try and do a font, it takes forever. Well, it depends on how many fonts you have. I have over 1,800 fonts in my computer, and it will bring up all the fonts in your computer. So if you have a lot of fonts, it'll take a little bit for this to show up. Let me just show you an example. So you go to text. This is how you're going to start your whole process. Text, click on the screen somewhere and type your word. So we're just going to do happy and then click off. And now you've got there, and the font it's using is Antique Oakland. And so if I come in here, now I've clicked it and it's thinking. As you can see, the little circle, and it's basically loading all the fonts. The other thing I don't like about Canvas Workspace is that you can't type in like B for, you know, the Belinda, and it takes you to your B's. You have to scroll through all the different fonts. The one thing that is kind of nice though is that it does show you your most recent fonts first. So let's see if it's going to bring them up. Sometimes you have to click it again. There it comes. So it doesn't have a recent because I haven't done anything since I've reopened Brother Canvas Workspace. But otherwise it has, these are the Canvas Workspace fonts. And so then once you get past these, did I miss it? All fonts. There you go. So there's a heading that says all fonts. So these are all the fonts that are in my computer. It can be a little bit hard to read what the name of them is, so keep that in mind. But you can kind of get an idea of what the font is going to look like, but it's kind of hard. It's so small, you're just never sure. And I want to see what happy looks like. I don't want to see what the font name looks like. So the way you can do that is you go into what it's called character map. And if you have, this is on a PC, it's not on a Mac. I don't have a Mac. I don't know how to do a Mac, so I'm sorry. You'll have to go and research somebody who has a Mac if you're using a Mac for your Canvas Workspace. But I have a PC, and so if you use character map, the character map that's built into your PC, you can just come over here into your Windows, click Start, and then you can just start typing, and you can start typing character map. And type it right, spell it right, and you'll have a character map app. So this is the original one. Let me open that one. This isn't the best version. This isn't the best way to see what the fonts are going to look like. I mean, you can see what the letters look like, but you can't see exactly what the fonts look like. So let's get out of this. You're going to want to download the most current character map. It's the best version for visualizing the fonts that you want to use. So simply go to the internet, go to a new tab, type in the web address, and just type in character map. And then enter, and it's going to do a search, and the one that you're going to want is the one from Microsoft. So it's Get Character Map UWP Microsoft Store, and it's going to be this icon, and you just go to install. And then once it's installed, you can then go into the same thing, go into your start menu, and then type in character map, and then it's going to be this one right here. So I already have it open, so I'm not going to click on it, but this is what you want to install. And then what you also can do is right mouse click on this and pin it to your taskbar. I already have it pinned to my taskbar, so you would want to say pin to taskbar. And then that way it's available down here and you don't have to go search for it. But if you don't want to clutter up your taskbar, totally fine. Just go ahead and, click on your start menu, and then you can search for anything just by start typing. So character map, so this is the character map. Okay, so as I said, this has every font that's in my computer. So I have, at the moment, I have over 1,800 font families. If you want to find a specific font, you can just come in here. So if we wanted to find, let's see, what was one of the ones we used? So the AR Bonnie. Come back into character map. So I come up here and I type AR Bonnie. And there it is. So this is all the letters, what they're going to look like for this specific font. Now the other thing that this software is really good for is that if you start working with glyphs. Now glyphs are, let me just get back out of this and go find one that's going to have some really cute glyphs. So this AR Berkeley should have some glyphs. Nope, but it does have special characters, but that's not what I want. So let's see, does Appetizer have some glyphs? There we go. So glyphs are variations to the letters. So if you see something that has like a really nice flourish on the end of a Y at the end of a sentiment kind of thing, that's what's called a glyph. And you can replace those things if the font family that you're using has them. And so in order to see if they have them, this is what you use, is this character map software. So you can come in here and you can then select, like if I wanted to say happy, well there's a Y, that's very cute, so I can add this Y at the end. So let me go to It was the Belinda. Let's go look at one that I actually am using. So the Belinda Outline. Scroll, and it's always at the glyphs, if any, will be at the end. So they have special characters, but they don't have any fancy glyphs to use, it looks like. Yeah, they don't really have any for this font family. So that's fine. We'll find another one that we can play with at some other time. But that's basically what you want to do, is if you want to add a glyph, a fancy Y, a fancy H at the beginning, or something like that, you can come through and you can look at the different font families. So let me just get out of this one and let's just go and pick another one. So I can come in here and go, well, does this one have one? Yes, it does. So these are some extra little fancy glyphs. And so this would be a good font that I could use. And you want to kind of look here too and see if the letter that you want has a fancy glyph, because not every letter is going to have it. Let's look at this one. This is Best Jolly. Best Jolly. Nope, doesn't have any. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this font name. That one doesn't have one. Some of these finer fonts, though, aren't going to look good if you're trying to make a sentiment. They just won't work right, and you'll figure that out as you go. You can try it, see what happens. So like this one has a bunch of different glyphs for your D's, even your E's. So these are pretty cool. They can get pretty, well, they even have lowercase glyphs, so that's cool. So you can put at the end of a word. So I just wanted to show you guys that this is the one reason why most people have this character map software. So if you wanted to insert the glyph into whatever you're working on, you just can right mouse click and you can do copy, and or you can do a PNG image. Whatever software you're working in might determine how you utilize this. I have not done this in Brother Canvas Workspace yet. I have done it in Inkscape. So with Inkscape, you literally just go in and you select the word, the letter you're trying to replace, and then you just paste. So, and then also, let's see, so you can come in here. Oh, and you can also add it down here. So you can do like a whole word and then you can copy the whole thing. So I can bring it down here and then I can hit copy, and then it's copied, and then I can take it to whatever software I'm using. So like I said, though, I have not done them in Brother Canvas Workspace, so I will be playing with that, but I have done it in Inkscape, and like I said, you just select the letter you're trying to replace, and then you just would do a Control V, which would be paste shortcut, and it'll replace the one that you want to replace. Now, the main reason I wanted to show you the character map software is that you can see what each letter looks like with the specific font. But if you want to see what a specific word looks like, this is where it shines. Just for those who may not know, the reason why they use the quick brown dog jumps over a lazy fox is because it uses all the letters of the alphabet so that you can see what every single letter would look like. But I want to specifically see what happy birthday looks like. So switch to type ramp view, and then you're just going to put in exactly what it is that you are wanting to see in the different fonts. And then you can come here and just click off to the left, use your down arrow key, and it'll go through all of the different fonts you have in your computer. And there's the bigger lemons one. And then you can see what they would look like. Let us go back to Canvas Workspace. And so now you kind of have an idea of where I got my fonts and how I can tell like what fonts possibly are going to look good. And so let's come down here and let's do this one. This is a very easy one. So this is the Belinda Outline. And so this one here, we're going to do. So what you're going to want to do, let's start with the birthday, because we just separated that. If you guys remember, it was all one word. We spaced it out. We made this character spacing wide enough so that nothing was overlapping. then we came into our edit and we did a divide. And so it broke everything into its own object. So now what we want to do is we want to move all of these so that they're touching and they're overlapping, because then what we're going to do is we're going to weld them. So now, mind you, this is a font that I did not create an offset because it is wide enough that I don't need to, and I want it to cut just as this is. So I'm going to just make sure that I make this size of this die cut large enough so that it doesn't have difficulty cutting out the smaller parts. Some fonts are able to do this, some are not. So like the AR Bonnie up here, this is, first of all, it's too thin to probably merge together or weld together. So that's why I want to create an offset and make it bigger and fatter and make it, you know, easier for the ScanNCut to cut. But this one down here, it should work pretty well. So there's going to be a few different steps that I'm going to be doing, and they may not work the first time because I'll know they don't work the first time because of whatever result I get. And just follow me. You'll understand. I kind of want to show you my whole thought process and the whole process in general, because you will run into these problems as well and then be like, oh, okay, I can't do that. I have to undo and I have to start over. So I just wanted to make sure you guys understand there's going to be a few steps in here where I undo it and then I do something to fix it, and then I try it again. And you're going to run into the same things because every single font is different. So what we're going to do then is like I said, we've already divided this up. And so the next step is I want to move these all over so that they overlap, because when I weld them, I want them all touching and I want them all to cut out as one word. Now, this little heart up here is going to have to get moved somehow so that it isn't just floating out there. I don't want it to be floating. I want it to cut all in one piece and be one whole entire die cut, all connected. So the other thing too is that this is now separated from its top piece, which is fine. So I'm going to just go ahead and select everything to the right of the B, and you can either use your mouse, you can click when you've got the four-way arrow like this, as you see on the screen now. You can now click and you can drag. However, I kind of want to keep everything in the same angle that the plane that it's on right now. So I'm going to use my keyboard arrows. So I'm just going to press the left arrow and I'm going to move everything over. And so what I'm looking at here is this B connecting to the I. And so it's going to just kind of, you don't want it to go too far in because then it's going to stick out. It'll have a little tail sticking out here. You just want, let me move it the other way. I want some spacing, but not too much, so that when it cuts, this little tail isn't the only thing holding these two together, because it's a very thin piece of paper. So we're going to move that over enough that it's pretty good, but not too close. All right, so now this little heart, like I said, needs to get down so that it's part of this I. So it's all one piece, and we can move it a little bit over, and that's perfect for me because it still looks like it's going to be a dot on that I. Okay, so now we're going to select everything to the right of the BI, and we're going to move that over, and I'm going to move it down because this little tail for this I needs to get connected to this R, and it's kind of looking weird if I don't do it this way. So we're going to go down, and then actually, let's go more towards this. And that looks more natural. And move one over. Let's get it out of that. Okay, I think that's going to be okay. And then, again, oops, I don't want the R. I want T only. There we go. Moving that over. And let's move it up a little bit so this little, we can move it up. Actually, I'm going to move it down because this little T part, this part of the T right here, I kind of want it to connect into this. So again, it's not just like floating out there, because this one's going to be floating out there on its own. That's enough to have, you know, I don't want to have stuff floating out there if I don't have to, because then that's less finer pieces that are going to just be, you know, that you have to glue down and deal with. So, okay, so let's do this H, and who knows, maybe I'll change my mind. Okay, so then same thing with this T and the H. We can go ahead and I can bring this down a little bit and bring it in. So now we've got the T that's being connected over here and into the H. The D is going to get brought over, and you're just going to bring it in. And then the A and the Y. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to select all the letters and we're going to click on Weld. This may or may not work. You will see. It worked. So the reason why, now let me back up. The thing that possibly wouldn't have worked was that if it had gotten rid of all the inside cuts. And it will do that down here, well, on this font down here, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But because this font we didn't do anything to this font, we literally just brought the font in, separated it or divided it out, and then squeezed everything back together and then welded it. So it kept the integrity of the letters and it worked perfectly. So now what we want to do is we're going to do the same thing with the happy over here. So I've already started, so you can see I brought the H and the A, the P, this P, and then we just need to bring over the Y. And so we'll bring the Y over, and then we're going to select all the letters. We're going to hit weld. Perfect. Now we need to bring this over here and we need to weld them together. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put them on top of each other, close to each other. And then what I want to do is I want to select them both. Be careful because I just selected that over here. You literally just have to touch the two objects that you are trying to select and it'll select them. So now what you want to do is go over to Align Objects, and I want to center these two words over each other. And so I'm just going to click Center, and so it's going to align the two over each other. Now what I want to do is I need this word to be touching this word as much as possible, but not too terribly much that it's going to, distort what the words are. So I'm going to bring them down, oops, and select happy, and I'm going to bring it down into birthday. Now, these definitely are centered at the moment. However, if you change it so that it's a little bit off to the right or a little bit off to the left right now, it's not going to be that noticeable when it's merged together, when it's welded together. So I'm looking at what is going to be connected and what is going to be just kind of dangling out there. So we don't want too much stuff dangling out there if we can help it, because it just makes the die cut easier to work with. So I actually am going to, I think I'm going to go a little bit more. Let's see what this looks like if we were to do the two of them aligned to the left. That's not too terrible because we've got a little bit more connection here. The P's are going together better. Okay, so let's see if we can move this up and over. I'm trying to see if I can get like this P and this Y to connect. Yep, I think I'm liking that. Because now we have the H is connected to this B. This P is connected to, it should connect to the T. And this P should connect to the H. And then this Y is connecting to that. So let us see now. Let's select them both and let's do weld. Okay. So we've got a tiny little cut that's going to happen there. That should be no big deal. This is definitely merged. This is welded, excuse me. So this is definitely welded. I'm looking to make sure that there's nothing that didn't weld, because even though it's very close to each other, sometimes it can look like it's welded and it's not. Like I've actually had some stuff where I finished it and then I went to go cut it and it was just like a loose letter because it was very close but not close enough. So this one I would say is good to go. I love it. It looks really good and we're going to stick with it. So the next thing you can do with these is, first of all, let's hit save. But the next thing you can do with this is you can create a shadow layer, really easy. So we're going to go and we've got the whole thing selected. We're going to go to offset. And so I'm going to do, let's do 0.16. We want it to go outward. I'm going to stick with, do I want rounded? Yeah, let's go ahead and do rounded because we're doing a shadow layer. And then select the original line. You're going to leave this as is. And then it says create an offset line only around the outer edge. That is correct. We don't want to do, we're doing a shadow layer, so we don't want the insides to create an offset as well, just the outside. And so we're going to hit OK. And there you go. And so now what you do is you can grab this, the shadow layer or the offset, and you can kind of just move it off to the side. The reason why I do that is I don't want it to get lost. I don't want to get it to get disconnected from its original die cut. So I want to make sure that I keep those close, and that's why I had those other ones up here originally when we started. I had these kind of hovering over these so that I could then, what I'll do is I'll probably either make a page where I cut out this with a shadow layer. I don't think that's probably going to be the case, but I'm not 100% sure, because there's different reasons why you may or may not want to do that. But I wanted to keep them together, at least for this part, because what I can do then is I can save, and then I can do a save as, and I can just do shadow layers for the exact same cut files, and I can just delete all the die cuts and leave all the shadows. So because you may want to do and the reason, okay, so let me elaborate. The reason why you may or may not want to do the shadow layer and the die cut on the same page is because you don't necessarily want the die cut and the shadow layer to be the same paper. But if you were to do that, then you could then cut out this whole thing again, the two again, out of a different paper and then mix and match. I hope that makes sense. So I could use this with like holographic paper, and I can do this in holographic as well, but then do another one that's on pink. And so then I would have a pink happy on a holographic shadow, and or a holographic happy on a pink shadow. Again, I hope that makes sense. But that's up to you and how you want to do that. All right, so let's zoom out and get back to our happy birthday over here. So we already have, so this is all good to go. These two are perfect. And so, like I said, I kind of just want to keep them hanging out together. I don't want to put them on each other because I don't want them to, I don't want to get confused that this is two separate cut files. So let's just have them hang out like that together. All right, I'm going to delete this because that was just playing around. So we've got, let's see. All right, so let's go back to my Word document and see what this was. So this was Hey Gotcha, I'm pretty sure. So let's bring in, and let's start over on this one. So we're going to do happy, and we're going to go to properties, and we're going to go to the fonts. I got to wait a little bit for it to get there. And like I said, it's the one downside to Brother Canvas Workspace is it just takes a long time to see your fonts, and then you have to scroll. Did I use it already? No, I don't have any recent. So we've got to scroll, and I can't type H and it takes me there. That's another thing that I don't love. So bear with me while you can also go over here. So let's see if that takes me. Yeah, it does. So we're going to go to Hey, JKH. There's no other way to get there. Sorry, guys. H-I-H-H-H. Sorry, I forgot my alphabet. H. Hey Gotcha. There we go. And I don't want the shadow one. I want just Hey Gotcha. And it should match this. It's thinking. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so as you can see, it's one object. I can move it around as one object. So then what I did was, if you come in here and you want to do, so what we're going to do is we want to make it into this. So the first step that you're going to do is you're going to create an offset. You want to blow this up. So let's see if this works. And so we're going to come to offset, and we want to do, for the offset, you just want to do 0.04. If you do anything bigger than this, you're going to lose a lot of the detail. And so just 0.04, that's the smallest you can go. and that's the one that I would do. Now we want to do an offset direction outward. We're going to go ahead and do bevel on this one. We're going to match the original font, which is sharp edges. And then we're going to, you want to leave as is the original line. And then you want to unselect this because we're going to do inside and outside. So we're going to hit OK. And that worked perfect. So what you do then is you click on it once and you drag off the little offset that you just created. So now what I can do is I can come in here and I can click one more time and I can do birthday and delete happy. So what I want to do is I want to duplicate this because once I divide this, it's not going to recognize it as a font. And if I need to come back and type another word for some reason, then this just makes it easier for me to do that. So I'm going to hit duplicate. I'm going to come down here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to divide this. And so now it's basically, it's turned everything into its own object. And so now what I want to do is select all of those and we're going to create our offset. And so we're going to do the same offset we did with the happy. So it's 0.04, outward, beveled edge, leave as is, and we're going to do inner and outer because we're not doing a shadow layer. We want an offset that's going to be, you know, the inside and the outside of all the letters. We're going to hit OK, and then you just grab. Now that is not what I wanted, so Control Z, and then what you want to do is you're going to click on each letter and you're going to hold down Control at the same time because you're going to select then all the different ones. Now we're going to select them all and bring it down. Perfect. Okay, let me just move this up out of the way. Okay, so now we have our letters. And let me go grab the happy. Actually, let me just put this over here. And this is what we're going to be working on. Okay, so now what we're going to want to do is we want to move these individual letters so that they overlap just slightly, and then they will weld perfectly. So let us just go ahead and I'm going to pull everything to the right of the B, and I'm going to just tiny bit bring that over. And the reason why I select everything to the right of whatever letter I'm working on is so that I then don't have to move the letters individually as far, because as you move one letter over, then these will get spaced further and further apart from the rest of the word, and it's just less keystrokes overall. All right, the R and the I want to keep the distance because I want that divider in between so that you can tell there's two letters there. So then the T and the H, so we're going to move over the T just slightly to bring it in. The H can come in just a tiny bit. Let's go ahead and zoom in for you guys. And so let's bring the H over just a little bit more. Okay, and the H and the D, I want to, same thing like I did with the I and the R. I'm going to keep it so it's got a good space. Now the A, I want it to bring in down here so that it will weld. And then the Y is, let's bring it over a tiny bit. Nah, that's too much. I think that's enough right there. Okay, now let's see what happens. And that's what I was afraid of. Okay, so what you need to do now is hit undo. And let's go ahead and save. And so what you need to do now is you need to ungroup. So like this B, if I right mouse click, it says ungroup. So that tells me that this, and the B itself are all, it's three objects, and they've been grouped together. So I need to ungroup them so that when I weld, I can select the inside of the letters and basically deselect them so that they don't weld. So for all the letters then that are So now you can see there's 3 different objects. So the R, so anything that has an inside, I'm going to ungroup it and ungroup. So now what you're going to do is you're going to select everything again, and now you're going to hold down your control key and you're going to select the inside of all the letters that you don't want to weld. Now I'm going to click weld, and there you go. Now, if I move this, it's not grouped, so I'm going to lose my insides. Hit undo. So now what you need to do is you need to come back in here and you need to just go ahead and group everything. So now it's a whole. All right, now let's fix the A. So the easiest thing to do is to come over here to the original word and so you can see the A right here. I'm going to zoom in real tight on this A because what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this. So I'm going to come over here to the path and I'm going to create my own little, so I'm going to click once and that's going to be the start of it, and you'll see it's a line now. That's going to, I'm not holding anything down. It's just basically you click once and then you click again to create a line. So now I've got that line. I'm going to click another line. And then I'm going to click that, and now it's created this little triangle. So now let's zoom out. That's the easiest way to do this, is basically you're just using what you already got, and you're going to make it happen just like that. We scroll over here. And we're going to zoom back in. I want to look at the placement. Let's move it over. And actually, I think that looks good right there. So now what I want to do is I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to hit duplicate. And I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to go put it down here because I needed 2 of them. And that looks good. All right. Let's zoom back out a little bit because now what we have to do, it's going to get a little complicated, so just bear with me. So this little triangle that we just added to our A is not part of our word. Control Z. So now what we need to do is we need to group it. So you just select it all, hit group. Now it's all part of the word. Same thing with this one. So we need to group. Okay. Now we need to weld the 2 words together. So this is where I meant by it gets complicated. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the Belinda font, excuse me. And I'm going to put them close together, select them both, and then I'm going to center them. And let's see what we have here. So that actually looks really good. Let me just move this up a tiny bit. I don't need it to be so far into the other one. I do want this Y into this D though, so let's go left a tiny bit. Like I said, can't really see that it's not perfectly centered. Okay, so I like the way those 2 look. Now, actually, I don't love it. Let me go over a tiny bit. Okay, that looks good. So now we're going to select them both and we're going to hit weld. And as you can see, it did the same thing it did before, where it got rid of everything on the inside. So undo. And then what you have to do is you have to ungroup everything. And the reason why you have to ungroup everything and then regroup everything and ungroup everything is because if you start moving stuff around, it doesn't keep everything together. And this is just the easiest way to keep everything together and not have to worry about trying to realign stuff manually. So now we've got everything ungrouped, and so all my insides are, for the most part, I'm able to click on them. Not all of them though. So what I want to do then is I have to be able to select all of this and then come in here and deselect the insides, which I'm clicking on this inside of my B and it's not working. So this is where you have to come in and you have to select. Did I ungroup this? Nope, didn't ungroup that. So let's, okay, now it's ungrouped. And that one's already ungrouped. Okay, so let's try it again. So for whatever reason, I guess I didn't ungroup them both words. So this one's not showing these as options. So let me see if for some reason I didn't ungroup. I think what happened, now that I think about it, since I grouped everything and then I added the A's, the triangle to the A's, and then I grouped it again, I had to ungroup it twice and I completely forgot about that. So again, it's just one of those things where you have to just do something and then realize, oops, that didn't work, and then you have to do, undo, or just, do the next step. In this case, I needed to ungroup it one more time. So now let's select everything. Okay, so now everything is showing as separate items, and so let's see if I can select them, because it doesn't always work. So I'm holding down Control and I'm going in. Okay, it's not working, and I'll show you why. So now what's happening is if I select this and then I try and select the inside of the B, it's not selecting it, because this is what's seeing, it's seeing the outside of the object as what we would consider to be the front. So it's in front of these two objects. So what I want to do then is, because this is what's showing in front, I'm going to right mouse click, I'm going to go to Arrange, and I'm going to do Send to Back. So now when I click off of it and I click on these, it's now able to select them. So same thing with this one. If I'm trying to click on this inside of the R, it's not selecting it. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do Arrange, I'm going to do Send to Back. So what it's doing, it's sending this major object, this big object, to the back, so that I can now select this small object. And then this one, same thing. I'm going to Arrange, then Send to Back. So now I'm able to select these. And then here we've got, I'm able to get that one, I'm able to get that one, and I'm able to get that one. So let's see now if I'm able to deselect the objects I don't want to weld. So I'm coming in here again, holding down Control, and I'm selecting all the insides. Make sure you don't miss any, because you'll have to undo and redo. All right, now it should work. Perfect. And now what you got to do, because again, if you grab this and you move it, all your insides are not part of this final image. Come in here and you're going to group. And it's now one part. And that's how you do it. So the next thing I want to do is create a shadow layer. So we've already worked on this before. So now we're going to go a little bit higher to 1/6. We're going to go outward. We're going to do beveled edge. Nope, we're going to do a round edge, because it's going to be a shadow layer. You can do a beveled. Let's try beveled. I haven't done beveled on a shadow layer, so let's do that. We want to leave the original lines as is, and then we're going to do only around the outer edge and click OK. And so what it did was, even though I told it to only do the outside edge, it's seeing these inside objects, the ones that we move to the front, basically, as separate objects, which is fine. So what I want to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab this shadow layer. I don't know if I love that. I kind of don't like that. It's not your classic shadow layer. Shadow layers are like soft. So let's do this again. And then we're going to do offset, and we're going to do round. It's the first time I've ever done it that way, and I didn't like it. Okay, so we're going to now move this off, just get it out of the way. And we're just going to come in, we can hold down Control, select multiples, and we're just going to go ahead and select all these insides and hit delete. And then as long as you didn't select this, then and this didn't go away, then you did it right. And so now we have the shadow layer, and we have our die cut. So that in itself is how you do it. I hope I showed you enough variations Now what you can do is what I did here is you can do the same thing over again, and this is why we kept this original font, is that I can come in here now and I can do the same thing, but I can do, what did we do? We did bevel edge, so now I can come in here and I can do the exact same thing and do rounded edge. And that's what I did here. So this is the same one, it's just rounded edge. I have not created an offset for this though, so let's go ahead and create an offset. So we want to do the 0.16, round, leave as is, and just do, not an offset, I meant a shadow layer. So now we have a shadow layer for that. Now the one thing you have to realize though, I guess, before I created the shadow layer, what I do is I'll come in here and I will size this the way I want it. So what I've been doing is I'll come into, it's up here. So my height, let's see, what did I do? 2.12 is my height. So it's about a little over 2 inches. High is these sentiments. And again, in the end of this video, I'll definitely put some pictures of the sentiments I've cut out and kind of what they look like on the front of an A2 card front. Which is a 4.5 by 5.25 card. And so I will usually size these and then do the offset or the shadow layer, because you can do it the other way around where you, like this is too small. So if I go in here now and I size this to 2 inches, so I got a little extra thing in there. Now what I'll have to do is I'll have to come in here and size this, and you know, it's like I gotta kind of do it by eyeball, and I'd rather not do that. So we'll just come in here and we just create another shadow or another offset basically. So come down here, do offset, everything stays the same, hit OK, and then move the offset off and get rid of all these little pieces. Perfect. And now I have a perfect little offset that I don't have to worry about resizing. So this one's the rounded, this one is the square, and then you've got the happy birthday, and then you've got the original fonts, which I'll delete these. This was me just playing, and so that's the same. So now I have, and then this is the original font for the AR Bonnie, so I can delete that now. And so yeah, so now if I wanted to, what I can do is I can put these so that they're close together. So maybe if I did this and then put the shadow layers under them so that I know that this goes with this goes with this, etc. This will come off. Put that out of the way. Unfortunately, you can't do like you do in Inkscape where you can put stuff off of your page and it just won't print, or you know, it won't get created as a cut file. If you try and do this and send it to your ScanNCut, it'll give you an error message and tell you that there's something off the mat. So you have to delete this. That's why I highly recommend making notes as to what fonts you use, because once that file, the font name is gone, like this is gone, you are going to be hard pressed to try and figure out what the font name was. But I can come in here and I can just move all these little cut files down, and then that way, like I said, I can cut this twice. I can cut it once, and I'll probably have to redo this because I'm not using 12 by 12 paper, obviously, so these will get moved over. If I change my, sorry, I'm trying to find, if I go to 8.5 by 11, you may not have this option if you don't have the print to cut feature, so just saying, but you can always count your squares, because each square is an inch, and so you just count 8.5 squares over and then 11 down. But as you can see, I wouldn't be able to get all of these on an 8.5 by 11 most likely, even if I squish them together. The one thing I could do is make them smaller, but in this case, I'll just go ahead and do a save as, and then move some over and just, you know, create more or duplicate them. The other thing I could do too is I could just make these all the same. Like I could just do this, what was this font called? This is the Hey Gotcha font. And so I literally can just duplicate these two on one page and have four, and it would just basically do four of the same sentiment with the shadow layers. So that's another option too. And then you could save this as Hey Gotcha, and then you know what it is, what font it is and stuff, in case you needed to redo it, or if somebody asks you, because I know somebody's gonna ask me. So I think that's pretty much it. And then I would just send this to my machine. I would save it, obviously, so let's do a save. And then you would come in here, you would export or transfer the FCM file. And, oh, see, remember what I told you? There's stuff off the board, so let's go ahead and just get rid of those so that I can show you how to export. We're going to just go ahead and delete these. And then we'll go back to this. And then we're going to do nope, I don't want PDF. I want the FCM. Oh, it's telling me that. Okay, so let's change myself back to 12 by 12 just for this demonstration purposes, because it's telling me that it was outside of my page area. So now we're going to do, and you can do the FCM file, which basically it'll save it to your hard drive, or you can save it to a jump drive. And then you can do it via the internet, or you can do a USB cable. So I'm Wi-Fi connected, so I'm going to just go ahead and do that, and then now it's sent to my machine. And so I would just go pull this up on my machine, put some paper on a mat, and cut it out. So I think that's everything I wanted to show you guys. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. Like I said, hopefully you took lots of notes. If you didn't, go back and watch this again. If you guys have any specific questions, please leave a comment below with it, and I will get back to you as best I can. If there's something that you would love to see me do for the ScanNCut DX model, let me know, and I will do the best I can. But otherwise, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, please do so, and make sure you turn on all the notifications so that you will know the next time I post a video or I go live. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.